fine-tuned senses, the woman hadn't noticed them approaching. She'd been collecting fallen leaves to stuff her pillow and gotten tired. And when she straightened up to stretch her back, there they were, 5 kids silently walking toward her. They aren't human, she thought. These kids are not of this earth. Chills ran down her spine, but perhaps because they were kids, she ended up calling out to them before she quite knew what she was doing. "What are you kids doing here?" she asked, and all 5 of them, their backpacks slung over their shoulders, turned to face her at the same time. "You kids shouldn't be in a place like this." A boy wearing glasses nodded. "Well, if you know that, then go home," she said, and told them how to get out of the forest. But the children shook their heads. "So, you're playing hooky, hiding out here when you're supposed to be at school, is that it?" The children didn't answer, and instead came closer, taking off their backpacks to sit at her feet. "Why so quiet? You kids from the deaf school?" A boy with dyed blonde crew cut nodded, but the tallest boy shook his head and took from his backpack a little booklet with last words written on its cover, opening it to a certain page to show her. There was a drawing of a person's face with no eyes, ears, nose, or mouth, along with the words, "We believe in silence." "You took a vow of silence?" The tallest boy shook his head and flipped through the booklet's well-worn pages before showing it to her again. There was another illustration, this time of a naked green man, sleeping in a tree, and beneath it the words, "There are ways to use one's voice and remain silent at the same time. Through silence, we can gradually get closer to nature, to the plants and animals." At this, the woman became convinced she was being played for a fool, and she said, "I don't understand this, but I want you to get out of here. Come on, stand up. I don't want to have anything to do with you, and trust me, you don't want to have anything to do with me. I don't care if you ran away from home or whatever it is you're doing, just go do it somewhere else." A girl with long brown hair tied back with a bandana shook her head and then folded her hands beneath her cheek to mime sleep. "Fine, don't talk to me, but don't expect me to understand you. Have it your way." The woman began to leave, and as she did, the 5 children lay down simultaneously and shut their eyes as if to sleep. Looking back, she noticed a slight hollowness to their cheeks that stopped her. "You haven't eaten, have you?" The boy with the blonde crew cut kept his eyes closed, but he nodded. "Well, if you can walk, come with me, but I warn you, I don't have anything good." The tall boy opened his eyes and looked at the woman, shaking his head. "Can't you move? Well, just wait here then, I'll bring you something." Now several of them were shaking their heads adamantly. "But if you don't eat anything, you'll die. Do you want to die?" None of the 5 answered that. A girl with big eyes wiped away a tear. The woman was getting annoyed again, so the tall boy brought the little book back out, showing her the pages one by one this time. It was a homely thing, just a bunch of computer paper stapled together. Page 1. "Written here are our last words. In the end, they are the only ones we need to believe. Putting these words into practice, we will lose our need for words at all. And when this happens, our hearts and bodies for the first time will be one, be perfect. Like the animals, the grass, the trees, the rocks. Do you have what it takes to stop being human?" The boy turned the page, and on the next 2 facing pages, conspicuously large type on the right side proclaimed, "We believe in these last words and pledge to forsake all speech," while on the left, smaller type simply stated, "We believe in silence." On the next page, the word teachings was printed in bold, and every page thereafter featured a new lesson. Lesson 1. Humans thrive on words and are destroyed by words. The words that destroy are no different from bird calls or barks. To believe in these meaningless cries is like believing in a drawing of a sardine head. Let us stop thinking about the meaning of meaningless words spoken by others and simply listen to them as music. Lesson 2. We who were raised listening to words that destroy continue to speak meaningless words that bear no relation to what's in our hearts. To cherish what's in our hearts, let us refrain from speaking words. Let us use our voices as musical instruments instead. Lesson 3 was the page she'd been shown before. There are ways to use one's voice and remain silent at the same time. Through silence, we can gradually get closer to nature, to the plants and animals. Lesson 4. Once one has become accustomed to not using words, one begins to think less about things as well. One becomes closed. This is proof that one's getting closer to reaching a state of simply being alive. Lesson 5. Those who are simply alive do not fear death. Blinking, breathing, dying, it is all the same. Lesson 6. However, one must not be impatient. Those who attempt end their words through death instead of silence end up cursed eternally. They suffer forever in a hell made of meaningless words. She flipped past the rest of the pages to the end. One page bore the legend, "Words have reached their end," and on the facing page was printed author, Saiko Yasuda, publisher, The Association of Finished Persons, date of publication March 31st, 2002. The woman sat down with the children, saying softly, "You're serious about this, aren't you? Being serious about something's a scary thing." And then she asked them, "This association of finished persons, this is you, isn't it?" The children nodded, weakly. "You're not finished yet," she pointed out, laughing. "You still understand the words I say, don't you?" The boy with glasses put his hands over his ears. The tall boy pulled them away. Now, you're doing the best you can, but no matter what you are, plant or animal, everything eats, and if you kids don't eat, you can't finish being human. Standing up, the woman roughly roused the children from the ground, pulling them up by their arms, swatting their buttocks with a stick, kicking at them with her feet as she herded them into her shack. The children began to perk up a bit as she did. She started a fire in the clearing to heat up some expired instant miso soup, and the children sucked it down. However, they wouldn't touch any of her expired convenience store rice balls, fried chicken, or chocolate. They continued their conversation, the children responding to yes or no questions with head shakes and nods. "Do you plan to live in this forest?" They stiffened. Some of them nodded. "Well then, do you plan to die in this forest?" All of them shook their heads. "You don't want to die?" They nodded. "But you don't want to live?" They nodded. "You poor things, your heads have outgrown your bodies. You can't become animals or plants with such oversized heads. Look, this is the kind of person who can become an animal." The woman folded her legs beneath her and brought the upper half of her body down to the ground, pushing out her bottom, and then braced herself low to the ground with her arms and stretched, meowing. "There are a lot of stray cats around here. I once read a book about a child who wanted to become a cat. Cats move their ears while they're sleeping, and they wake up as soon as they sense danger. They can wake up and run away at full speed in an instant. The child thought that if she couldn't do that, she'd never become a cat, so she practiced it diligently. Every morning, the second she woke up, she would leap up and race into the garden in a flash. The children laughed, as soundlessly as they could. Plus, she ate bugs and field grass and put anything and everything in her mouth to see if it was edible. Later, she learned to speak languages from Africa and all around the world and became a linguist. She was half human, half animal, and so she became a linguist. The children knit their brows, and the woman flicked the creases between them with her fingernail. "You can't become an animal just by giving up language, is what I mean. Do what you want. Don't speak, don't eat, take poison. But what is an animal, or plant, or thing? If you continue not to eat like this, your arms and legs will waste away and you'll be bedridden. But sad to say, you'll still be thinking all sorts of stuff in your heads. Though I guess that might suit you kids with your oversized heads. Maybe you'd prefer to live completely inside them, your body useless." The girl with big eyes had begun tearing up as she looked at the woman. "Everyone dies. You won't become animals following that stupid book. All that will happen is you'll end your lives for the sake of a life that's not even your own. If you still want to disappear like that, feel free. But if you seriously want to slip free from a life lived only in your heads, then go out. Go on, get out, forage your own food. Either way, when you get up tomorrow, you'll no longer be welcome here. I want you to wake up and dash away as fast as you can, like a cat."